Have you ever thought about how a poem is built? I mean, not just the words, but its rules, its structure. Could that architecture all on its own tell a story that's just as powerful as the words themselves? Well, today, we're going to see exactly how that works by diving into Natasha Trethewey's absolutely brilliant poem, Miscegenation.
So here's our roadmap. First, we'll get into the historical context, the hidden language behind the poem. Then we'll break down a poetic form called the Ghazal. After that, we'll look at Trethewey's poem itself and see how she uses this unique structure to explore a fractured identity, and in the end, create something incredibly unified.
All right, first things first. Before we can even touch the poem, we have to understand the world it came from. This is all about the power of context.
So let's circle back to that big question. Can a poem's form actually tell a story? I mean, forget the words for a second. Can the blueprint alone get a message across? As we're about to see, Natasha Trethewey gives us a masterclass in why the answer is a huge, resounding yes. So, let's meet the poet, Natasha Trethewey. She was born in Gulfport, Mississippi in 1966. Her mother was black and her father was white. Now that fact right there is the key to everything, because in Mississippi, at that time, her parents' marriage wasn't just looked down on, it was literally illegal.
And that brings us to the poem's title, Miscegenation. The word itself just means marriage between people of different racial groups. But in 1965, a year before Trethewey was born, her parents had to go all the way to Ohio just to get married. Think about that. Their love, their family, their future child, all of it was considered a crime in their own home state.
So how do you even begin to write about an identity that's been fractured by law, by society, by history itself? Well, you need the right tool for the job. And for Trethewey, that tool was a very specific ancient poetic form.
She chose something called a ghazal. So what on earth is a ghazal? At its core, it's just a series of two-line stanzas, right? Couplets. But here is the crucial part, the thing you have to remember. Each one of those couplets is its own complete, self-contained thought. It can stand all by itself, totally independent from the one that came before it or the one that comes after.
Let's break down how this thing works. You've got these independent couplets, which create these wild, jarring leaps in thought and time. But they're all held together by something called a Radif. That's a repeating word or phrase that acts like an anchor for each one. The best way to think about it is like a string of pearls. Each couplet is its own unique pearl, but they're all threaded together on that one constant refrain. And believe me, this was no accident. Don't just take my word for it. Listen to Trethewey herself. She said she was drawn to the Ghazal because of its ravishing disunity. She had all these scattered pieces of her story to tell, and she knew a simple, linear poem just wasn't going to cut it. The brokenness of the form was the whole point. Okay, so we've got the theory down. Now let's see how this blueprint actually works when you put it on the page. Just take a look at the poem. In the very first couplet, she's talking about her parents back in 1965. Then, boom, the next one jumps to a character from a Faulkner novel. A few lines down, she's talking about her 33rd birthday, which she calls her Jesus year. You see, these are huge leaps in time, in subject, in focus. Each thought is its own separate pearl.
So what's the thread holding all these different pearls together? It's that one word, the Radif. The word that ends every single couplet, Mississippi. No matter where her mind wanders, to Ohio, into a book, to a birthday, it always, always comes back home to Mississippi. That's the poem's anchor.
And this, right here, is where it all clicks. This is that aha moment, where the poem's structure and its subject matter just fuse together into something truly brilliant.
Here's the connection, plain and simple. The poem's disunity is a perfect mirror for the speaker's fractured identity. The form, with its separate stanzas jumping all over the place through time and memory, is what it feels like to be biracial in a world that demands you pick one box. The poem doesn't just talk about a fragmented life, its very structure is fragmented.
And if you think that's genius, check this out. Trethewey weaves the themes of the poem right into the very sounds of the words. She mentions her parents went to Cincinnati, a city whose name, she says, begins with a sound like sin. And then the anchor of the whole poem, Mississippi, well, it literally starts with miss, the sound of mistake, of wrongness. Sin and wrongness are baked right into the geography of her story.
So let's pull it all together. What's the ultimate effect here? What's the lasting power of using this specific broken form to tell this particular story? What Trethewey pulls off is this incredible unified disunity.
She takes a form that's known for being disconnected and uses that very disconnection to create a perfectly whole and powerful artistic statement. She forces us, as the reader, to experience those leaps and jarring thoughts right alongside her. She doesn't just tell you what a fractured identity is like, the form makes you feel it.
And this idea just echoes all through her work. In another one of her poems, South, she ends with this incredibly defiant claim. She returns to the very state that made a crime of her, not as an outsider, but as a native in my native land. It's this powerful act of reclaiming a place that tried to push her out. And it leaves us with one last thought. How can we use the structures all around us, whether it's laws or traditions or even the rules of a poem, to claim our own native ground?